Welcome back to the Bible Study Podcast. In this episode, we get into the observation step of the Bible study process. Before you can get to the meaning, we first have to see what is there and conduct a little bit of analysis. Get out your Bibles, get out your notebooks, set aside the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and let's get into this study. Let's do a quick review before we jump into observation. So this series is a moderately detailed course on Bible study principles, methods, processes. And the Bible study process put into its simplest form is 3 steps: observation, interpretation, and application. Interpretation is where the biblical hermeneutics really come into play. This is about getting to the meaning of the text. And the hermeneutical principles are a set of foundational truths that help us get to the meaning. And that is what we're going to get into after we have done some of this observational stuff. Now, it's interesting to note that regardless of the hermeneutical principles that you use, you still need to do good observation. Yeah. Okay, well, I'd say that's probably true for 99% of the hermeneutical camps out there. Now, to get the most from this series, try not to blitz your way through all the episodes, especially if you're just getting to learning the skill of Bible study. So listen to an episode, then go to work on the skill that was just covered in that episode. And if it hurts your brain, you know it's working. Do the warm-up exercise I mentioned in the Bible Study 101 warm-up episode. That is, pick a book you want to study, even if it's one you think you're familiar with. Write down everything you think that the book teaches. That stuff about God, man, salvation, how we should live, right? Whatever you think it teaches. Do this without opening the Bible for help. Then write down all the verses that support what you think it teaches, again, without opening the Bible. And now the point of this exercise is to clearly see what preconceived notions that you have going in that might color what you're about to study. And writing things down allows you to engage with your own thoughts in a more lucid fashion. So don't skip this warm-up. Observation, at least for our purposes, is going to have 3 phases: familiarization, organization, and analysis. Now, if you go look at some other Bible study methods, they may not break it down this way, but just to try to break these episodes up a little bit and give you some time to digest the process and, work the step. This is what I have broken it down to. So you should be able to spend a little bit of time between each episode on each step in this observation process. Now, if you've selected a larger book of the Bible, you may not be able to get through the familiarization phase before the next episode. But that's okay. You go at your own pace. So there is a quote that's attributed to Abraham Lincoln, and I don't know if this is his or not, but there are wisdom in the words. And it goes like this: if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 6 sharpening my axe. Good observation is the axe sharpening of Bible study. If you wanted to understand an ant colony, you might go watch a colony of ants for a while. And after an extended period of time of watching and taking notes, you might notice some patterns start to develop. And it's the same with familiarization of the text that you want to study in the Bible. Before you can get to the meaning, before you can get to the why, before you can get to the how do I apply it to my life, you have to get to know the text. You got to know what's there. So we have to familiarize ourselves with it. So how do we do this? This really is not that difficult. It can just be a little bit of time consuming. So you got to become acquainted with the text. And the way you do that is you read it multiple times. You want to read it out loud, have it read to you, listen to it, and get an audiobook. You should read it at least 5 times before you move to the second phase of observation, which is organization. Maybe more. If it's really big, you might actually need to read it more. It's not as easy to see patterns start to develop in larger books without becoming more familiar with it. So let me repeat this. Read it multiple times. Read it out loud. Read it out loud at least once. And I'd say read it at least 5 times at a minimum. If you have access to an audio version of the Bible, you can listen to it. Don't have a lot of time, get one that has where you can adjust the playback speed and put it to 1.5 or 2 times speed. I do this. This part isn't about savoring the text like it's a good meal, at least not when you're listening to it. That's what meditation is for, right? Meditation is a great discipline, but this is not what we're talking about. Get familiar with the text. That is, get familiar with the words and the sentences and how they're connecting. And the more you read it, you're going to start to see patterns begin to emerge. Before you even put pencil to paper, you're going to see these patterns begin to emerge. So your homework, your mission, whatever you want to call it for this week, or until you get to the next episode, pick a book, do the warm-up, and then read it at least 5 times. And one of those times should be out loud. And as you read this over and over, an interesting thing is going to happen. You're going to notice that you are memorizing the text. You're going to be memorizing this without even realizing it until later. Now, you may not have to recall every word in a specific order, but you're going to have the content of the book deep in your mind. And that's when you know it's time to move on to organization, or when the next episode comes out. So take a break from binging Tiger Kings or Devs or whatever you're watching on Netflix or Hulu. Pick a book of the Bible and get reading. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com.